Good morning. Welcome to the Daily Present. Today, I am going to be talking about, do you even really know what's involved in speaking? Now, of course, you know how to open your mouth and use words, but do you really know what's involved in speaking from a more professional standpoint? That's going to be the subject of today's Daily Present. Stay with us. I'll be back after the titles. Okay, good morning. I love my new titles. Let me know what you think. Perhaps you hate them. I don't know. If you're not already following me on YouTube and you want to get regular content like this and get latest updates and maybe even tune into the live editions of my two podcasts, Speaking of Influence Live and Points of Change, which is actually going to be on later today, then you can do that. Look for Present Influence on YouTube. Give us a follow. Like and subscribe to the videos, please. It really helps. And once you click subscribe to the channel, click that bell icon, you will be notified of any and all up and coming videos from the channel. So today I am speaking about, I decided to have a bit of a chat about what's really involved in speaking from a more professional standpoint. That I do think a lot of people think it is just about getting up on a stage and opening your mouth and sharing information and content. I think my microphone might be a little bit far away, but there's so much more involved in that. And realistically, I think that speaking has to be about entertaining as well as educating. So there's a word you will sometimes hear, and it is a made-up word, but then isn't every word a made-up word? It's edutaining, and I talk about this sometimes on the shows and other places as well, that edutainment is what it's all about. Now, I don't know if you like reading a lot. In a book by a guy called Andres Oppenheimer, it's called The Robots Are Coming. It's all about how automation and AI is ultimately taking away jobs. This is already happening, that most people's work is going to be replaced by algorithms and robots. And many people already find themselves in that situation. That ultimately we will come to a point where there's really not going to be much work that we are required for in person. And jobs that actually require people to do them are going to become fewer and fewer the more advanced our technology gets. So what's going to happen then? What are we going to do? I think it's important to recognize that as much as technology will change the landscape of working environments for people, it will also create new jobs that we don't even know exist. Like, I could not have imagined when I started down my journey as a coach years ago that there would be jobs like social media manager and things like that. And those jobs exist now, and they didn't then. We will see more of those kinds of things, people who are looking after that sort of information. New jobs will be created as old jobs disappear, but I don't think it's going to be a 1-for-1 ratio. So I still think for the most amount, many of us will find ourselves without jobs unless you do something about that, unless you prepare for the future. And so this is an important area to be thinking about. What's one of the ways that you stay relevant in the work market? How do you stay employed and employable in the professional market? And I think that has to be that you know how to speak and entertain. Now, this is what Andres Oppenheimer goes on to say, that his belief is that the two growing markets of education and entertainment are going to become even more essential as we go forward. And that those are roles that we don't really want to have replaced by artificial intelligence, because to a great degree they require empathy. And although maybe that can be simulated to some degree, we generally want to know that we're connecting with a person, and there's a big difference. There's a big difference. We want to have that human connection, that empathy. And so where public speaking, or where I think training and public speaking sit, is at an ideal axis between education and entertainment. because you ultimately will be doing both, unless you're just doing entertaining speaking. If you are teaching in any capacity and it's not entertaining, you should be asking yourself, could I make it a bit more entertaining? You don't have to be doing like a game show host or anything like that, but if you can make your what you teach more entertaining for the people who are in your audience, then they are going to absorb far more and enjoy the process of learning as well. And this is one of the things I think a lot of people get turned off of learning because they think it's dry and it's boring, and it is all about somebody standing in front of them, like the classroom situation that we mostly grow up with in schools. Somebody stands in front of you, delivers information, gives you some assignments, and you do the assignments. It's pretty dry. And that's what most people think even now. And I think people get on stages in public speaking environments and other places and think that that's still the format, because that's what they've seen, that's what they've grown up with. And unfortunately, it's not particularly engaging. Some people do a better job of making it a bit more interesting than others, but delivering purely information and content is never going to be enough if you really want people to remember it and absorb it and get the most of it. You have to be able to step into that entertainer line as well, at least to some degree, to make it a bit more enjoyable, get a bit more playful, engage your audience a little bit more. And you can take that as far as you're comfortable taking it. It's going to make things more exciting for you and for your audience. So be thinking in these sorts of terms. What could I do to make the content that I teach or present more entertaining? How could I step up the playfulness and the engagement to pull people in more and help them not just to learn, but to remember far more of what we talk about? If you're not thinking about that in terms of your presentations, if you're not thinking about telling stories or pulling people in or utilizing real examples or getting people asking questions and using rhetorical devices, there are so many things that can come into this, then I'm afraid you may just be delivering dry information. And whilst that may be acceptable in certain situations and certain roles and jobs, really it's not the best way of doing it. So I'm going to ask you to think outside the box of this. And you don't have to become like Robin Williams in Dead Poets Society and have everyone standing on the desks or anything like that. But be thinking in those sorts of terms about actually creating the connection and relationship with people. Being an edutainer is about getting people involved in what's going on, not just listening and absorbing information and being expected to remember it all. Even if you're speaking to the board of directors, make it a bit more entertaining. You don't have, within what's appropriate in that environment, make it a bit more engaging. Use stories, utilize some techniques that maybe even asking questions and pulling people in. They might feel a bit strange about it at first because might be different to what's normally done, but they're probably going to really end up admiring you and maybe even asking you to train other people up in being able to deliver in that way, because the presentations suddenly become a bit more lively. They feel a bit more pulled in. They remember their information more. So if you're not edutaining your audience yet, then make sure that you do. I think one of the best bits of feedback I ever give to people in Toastmasters organizations and in trainings that I do is to get up, and they can sometimes deliver really, really great information, important statistics, really useful, beneficial stuff that comes through. But what can end up happening is it's all that level of information and content, and you get like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 points or more in a short presentation. And guess what? People's eyes are glazing over. They're tuning out. They're thinking about what the message is. They might be waiting for them on Facebook or WhatsApp, or they're thinking about what they're going to be cooking for their dinner when they get home. They're not thinking about what you're saying because you have overloaded them with information. So if you can deliver 2 or 3 points with great clarity and make it really engaging and put in some tools that are going to make them very memorable as well, you will have delivered a great job, and you will be really speaking to your audience and showing them how presentation should be done. That you have to be thinking of yourself now as an edutainer, not as a speaker. Okay, that's it for me today. I'm going to be live again later today with the Points of Change live recording for well, it's going to be a live show, and I am I'm going to be having a guest on called Scott Perry. Scott is a trainer, a coach, an author who believes in the power of creativity and has a book about it and teaches and talks about that. So join me later today if you can, 2 p.m. Central European time, 1 p.m. UK time, whatever time that might work out for you, where you are. Join us live if you can. The recording will be available not long afterwards, and I'll hope to connect with you there. Later in the week, I am having some more amazing live conversations. Please do make sure you subscribe to the channel to never miss out on what's coming up on Speaking of Influence, Points of Change, and of course, the Daily Present. I will look forward to seeing you next time.